Western Pacific, 2 a.m. The sky is quiet, too quiet. Under that calm, the world's deadliest armada is moving, and it's not subtle. From the Med to the South China Sea, NATO has put together the biggest war stack the planet's ever seen. Carriers on deck, destroyers on station, hundreds of birds in the air, and over 500,000 boots ready to hit the ground. The mission. Something nobody thought would ever happen. A full-on invasion of China. How did it blow up like this? It started months earlier. China slammed Taiwan hard. A lightning strike. Chaos. US intel went red with satellite feeds showing amphibious fleets massing along the eastern seaboard. Taipei was burning. Japan, Australia, South Korea went into a panic. Washington didn't roll solo this time. For the first time since World War II, NATO pulled Article 5, collective defense. China's move was labeled a global security threat. Europe put its chips in. Brits, French, Germans, Poles, everyone started mobilizing east. The plan to deter escalated. Beijing refused to blink. They seized control of international waters, smoked a US recon drone, and put out a cold warning. Any foreign military entering the Western Pacific will be treated as hostile. The die was cast. NATO was going to war. This wasn't a weekend op. It was logistics, patience, and a whole lot of moving parts. You don't just flip a switch and land 500,000 troops on the other side of the planet. Convoys rolled out from the UK, France, Italy, all shadowed by US nuclear boats down below. Heavy-lift birds chained through the Middle East to forward Pacific bases, hauling gear and men. By the time the last convoy punched through the Strait of Malacca, the Western Pacific was on high alert. PLA ships tailed the incoming fleet like sharks. The world watched the most powerful alliance steam toward the most fortified nation on Earth. Dawn over the East China Sea. Silence breaks. B-2s pushed out of Guam. British F-35s wheeled off the carrier deck. Targets, coastal radars, AA batteries, command nodes. German and Italian destroyers punched Tomahawks. Submarines ripped holes into coastal defenses. The goal: rip apart China's A2AD, knock out the missile silos and early warning systems before the big deck shows up. Speed. Shock. Surgical pain. Problem: China was awake. Their radar net flared. DF-21s and DF-26 peeled off the rails, arcing toward the sea. NATO screens went full defensive. Aegis intercepts, electronic warfare, chaff, decoys. The night became tracer and fire. Even the slickest alliance was up against one of the tightest anti-access shields ever built. The first hours made or broke you. NATO ate pain. A German frigate went down near the Philippines. A US carrier dodged a hypersonic salvo by the skin of its teeth. Chinese cyber units lit up NATO's networks. Comms glitched, satellites flickered, the net went spotty. Then NATO hit back. Cyber and space commands punched hard, jamming missile trackers, space drones taking out relays. An invisible fight in orbit decided who got eyes and who went blind. By day 2, China's coastal command was patchy. Regions went dark, but geography was Beijing's ace. Home turf advantage is brutal. Where do you put boots down? That was the nightmare question. China's coast was thousands of miles of baked-in defenses. The answer: deception, speed, and brute force. Operation Iron Shield. Marines staged feints at the Taiwan Strait while the real landings kicked off farther south. British Royal Marines and Polish mechanized units speared into Guangxi. Amphibious craft hit the beaches under heavy naval gunfire. First boots hit the dirt by nightfall. But it wasn't a cakewalk. Chinese armor counterpunched. Drone swarms turned landing zones into hell. Progress ground. Every kilometer cost blood and metal. 3 weeks in, the whole thing ground to a stand. NATO held a narrow coastal shelf, a handful of ports and airfields, all under constant hammer. China still owned the interior. Missiles kept falling. Ships kept going under. Global markets melted. Oil spiked through the roof. Trade choked. Billions stared as two massive blocks chewed on each other. Escalation was on the table. Russia offered neutral support. The US quietly nudged its nuclear posture skyward. Everyone knew one screw-up could go thermonuclear. That was a cliff no one wanted to fall off. 2 months in, both sides were running low. NATO's fleets were bruised. China's coasts smoldered. Then the game shifted. Japan and South Korea formally jumped in, terrified of total Pacific collapse. Their air arms added hundreds of jets. Australia opened ports. That tilt mattered. Allied airstrikes chewed through Chinese logistics nodes. Supply lines snapped. Morale cracked. Beijing pulled a hard card. Massive jamming fields and space denial ops. GPS went spotty. Ground-based lasers blinded Allied cameras. The fight went beyond the sky, into orbit and the electromagnetic spectrum. It was attrition and misery. Nobody wins clean. 90 days in, the whole region was wrecked. Cities burned. The South China Sea was a graveyard of hulls. Tens of thousands were dead. Back-channel comms flickered. Not diplomats, generals and field commanders trying to keep the lid on. Neither side could keep the teeth in. Geneva became the scene for emergency talks. A ceasefire, brittle, forced, negotiated by cold calculation more than trust. The war ended on paper. The world was forever altered. Months later, sat imagery showed the scars, blackened coastlines, shipping lanes littered with wrecks. Cities rebuilt slowly, if at all. History calls it the 3-month war, the conflict that nearly ended everything. And the question keeps gnawing. If NATO barely survived invading China, what happens when the other side goes first? Power always seeks balance. History always resets the board. And the cost? Never clean. Never worth it. Would you like me to adjust the tone or timing of any specific section? For example, I could write it to sound faster, slower, or more analytical.